All right, it's Thursday, June 26th, 4 p.m. I'd like to call this Des Moines Area Metropolitan Planning Organization meeting to order. Our first item of business today is the vote on the approval of the agenda.
Approval.
Moved by Clive, second by Winter Heights. Any discussion on the agenda?
I do have one thing I will note, the water trails change order there under consent item C, 5C, we are taking that off. They had a change to it. It's not ready yet, so we don't need to take action.
That means we'll probably have to meet in July. All right, we do have several people online, so we'll pause here, but all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved. Up next is item number 3, vote and approval of the May meeting minutes.
Second.
Moved by Bondurant, seconded by Des Moines. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Up next is our public comment. Do we have anyone signed up in advance or anyone present who'd like to speak?
We do not.
Do not have anyone who'd like to speak. Our next item is our consent and vote. The questions if needed, but we're only at item A and B at this point. Require a motion on this.
Approval.
Second.
Moved by Windsor Heights, seconded by Pleasant Hill. Any discussion or questions related to A or B? There are none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Consent is approved. Thank you. Moving on, we have a presentation, the certification review. We'll turn over to Dylan.
Thanks. We have Sean Literal with us from the Federal Highway Iowa Division Office. He's going to talk to us about our certification review that the MPO went through. We did this on April 1st. We have to do it every 4 years. So I think Sean's got some updates for us.
First of all, just what is QMA certification review? Federally mandated assessment of the Metropolitan Planning Organization, transportation management areas, that would be urbanized areas greater than 200,000. These are jointly conducted by FHWA and FTA. It's not here today, but they're definitely involved with the review. This is under 23 CFR 450 and 49 CFR 613. This is one of the federal highways, and I'd say FTA is one of our larger, more in-depth reviews that we do. There's a team of us that devote an extensive amount of our time over the last year to completing this review. I think we had about 5 or 6 federal employees. We lost a few due to the deferred resignation, but luckily we were able to keep momentum going and getting your all's review completed. So why do these reviews matter? It verifies compliance with our long-range planning, financial programming, public involvement, Title VI, performance management, air quality, freight, IPS, and more. It strengthens regional decision-making, funding eligibility, and accountability, as well as just improving the coordination for the federal, state, MPO level to help and what everybody's role is doing, what everybody's going through to help with the planning. So who's involved? The MPO leadership and staff, the state DOT planning and air quality plant partners, the transit agency representatives, mentioned the federal review team that we have, about 5 to 6 people on that team, and also local stakeholders and the public. I see some of the public is here again today, so it's good to see. When and how often? Dylan mentioned that typically these are done every 4 years, and that is required by law. It combines document review, on-site interviews, stakeholder workshops, data checking. So what to expect today? I don't want to take up a lot of everybody's time, but I'll just kind of briefly go through the review process and some of the findings that we found. The process is a pre-review preparation process for MPO key planning documents. These include the MTP, the TIP, the work program, the public-private partnership documentations, their Title VI plans, public involvement records. The FHWA and FTA team assemble agenda items, assign lead reviewers, gathers past findings. We conducted an on-site review April the 1st, after doing kind of what we call desktop options, all those documents. We will have on-site review where we can ask questions to the MPO and staff if we have any. So we did that April 1st this year. We conducted interviews, long-range transportation plan, tip development process, financial programming, public involvement, Title VI, environmental justice, performance-based planning and programming, freight, air quality, ITS elements. So as you can imagine, this is quite a comprehensive review and a lot of information to go through. So what we do is that we look for findings or recommendations. Classifications of items are a corrective action. That would basically mean there's something that they're doing that's federal law and we would require corrective action. And we would have to, we wouldn't approve this. Well, we could approve it because there's some options there, but we find potentially correction action is correct. A recommendation is really just kind of a suggestion for improvement. The MPO can kind of take it or leave it. We really encourage them to kind of really consider our recommendations because we think it will improve either efficiency or something of that nature. And then we have commendations. That's where we feel like the MPO is really hitting it out of the ballpark. This is a best practice that we can share nationally with other MPOs. The certification decision, FHWA and FTA jointly issues one of these three out. We either certify it, that means it meets the requirements, which we have certified or in the process of certifying the Moines MPO review. So that's just waiting on a couple of things. That should be kind of the other option is we can certify with corrective actions, or we can non-certify, which is a rare, a serious deficiency that's mentioned there. We'll be sending out a formal letter to the MPO board probably within a week. We have a follow-up closeout process where the MPO submits corrective action work plans with milestones. So, you know, that's knows for that for you probably a month or something like that. Get some time to think about it. FHW and FT monitor progress and formally close actions when complete. So it's really one of the things I was really pleased about this year was we had probably 8 or 9 recommendations 4 years ago. And I think the MPO just hit it out of the park, correct on those recommendations and go kind of up above and beyond on that. So thank you, Dylan, for that. And this is, anybody that's familiar with it's kind of this 3C process with cooperative, continuing, comprehensive. So this continuing improvement, the MPO enters feedback into this former or following work programs and planning documents. So I'll start with the commendations, which the MPO received several. I won't read all of these. I'll just kind of highlight them and move on because you'll probably already seen the document, maybe already read it, so maybe wasting this time. But if not, I'll just kind of go real fast. So, first commendation is DART and Des Moines area MPO have a long-standing relationship that has proven to be effective at furthering transit initiatives in the region. The Des Moines area MPO has made a concerted effort to issue funding where appropriate to advance transit planning efforts and capital projects significant in the region, strong involvement and partnership from DART. Also, the Des Moines area MPO is committed for including procedures for amending and revising their work program in its annual work program. Another annual work program best practice of the Des Moines area MPO is inclusion of the committee representatives of the work program in Appendix A. The MPO's website has been significantly updated and prioritized public participation and improved user navigation. The last commendation is the federal review team commends the Moines area MPO for its rail transload facility study that ultimately resulted in a transload facility being built about a year or two ago. Now, these are the recommendations. It is recommended that the Moines area MPO in partnership with DART better engage and incorporate the local land use planning agencies of municipalities with the MPO region into the MPO and transit planning process. It is recommended that the Des Moines area MPO update their 28E agreement. I think it's your kind of your general oversight agreement. And the bylaws to account for the 2020 census update, as well as the incorporation of Greater Polk County into their MPO regions. The MPO should consider including 20 years of projects in their MPP, which is long range plan, supporting local jurisdictions to do long range planning for 20 years of possible projects. Per 23 CFR 450.316, the public participation plan should describe procedures for demonstrating consideration in response to the public input received during the development of the MPP, long range plan, and the TIP. Conduct a comprehensive ADA self-evaluation and develop a program access plan with 28 CFR 35.150E. Per 23 CFR 450.326E, TIP shall include to the maximum extent practical a description of anticipated effects of the TIP towards achieving the performance targets identified in the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, linking investment priorities to those performance targets. DOT should consider providing project phases in TIP and STIP. This would allow better partnership stakeholders and public to better understand projects and plan. Normally, state DOT does this, so it is about that unless you know this is PE, preliminary engineering phase, routing phase, or construction. Going through, I think, y'all's TIP, but they didn't have that kind of information. The review team recommended the following: freight shippers, providers of freight transportation services, and providers of transportation in the participation plan. The review team recommends that the MPO enhance communication around the purpose of a public comment period and how feedback is evaluated and used in decision making. Particular emphasis should be placed on informing and orienting new participants to ensure they understand the role and the impact of the. In conclusion, the federal panel believes that the Moines MPO is a high-performing MPO with several potential best practices. So we really did appreciate coming down here and really liked what we saw. I think Dylan and his team are doing a great job. That's all I have.
All right, well, thank you, Sean. Lots of hard work by staff. In the last 4 years, we've seen a lot of change and worked through a lot of it. So glad the Federal Highway recognized that and the work that's going on, and the future is bright. We'll keep pedaling that way. And I think the 20-year idea is an absolute perfect idea. Focus on long term. So, anyone have any questions or anything?
Are we planning for the recommendations as far as going forward?
Yeah, we have, I can provide you a breakdown of that, but we do have, we are updating our public participation plan right now. And so several of them were related to that. So we're working on the ADA accessibility. That'll be part of that effort, addressing some of those things that were in there. The long range transportation plan, we are probably going to come back sometime this fall with an update, recommended updates to the long range transportation plan to incorporate a few other things such as the comprehensive safety action plan and some other data that's out there now. So that'll be a time we can take a look at the 20-year time horizon. The issue with that, when we put together the plan, is communities don't oftentimes have 20 years worth of projects in mind. So that was the hesitation there. And with the funding of the legislature, not knowing what that was going to look like, throws up a lot of question marks. So that's why there wasn't 20 years worth in there, but that's something we can take a look at as well. I don't remember what all the other ones were at the moment, but we've got plans for how to incorporate them.
We can move on then to item number 8, report the vote on the fiscal year 2026, 2029 transportation improvements. Swifts. Backing it up. Now report and vote on self-certification. Dylan.
Thank you. Before we get into the tip, we like to every year look at our self-certification. This was a recommendation from 2 certification cycles ago that we've put into practice every year, just to make sure that everyone on the board and staff is aware of the requirements put upon MPOs and that we are affirming that we are doing those things, and we put a document in our tip that certifies that we do those things. So if you go to the next slide, you can see a list of all of the relative acts and activities that are required of MPOs or we need to be aware of anyway and not violate. I can go into detail on these if you would like, but otherwise I'll keep it pretty brief and show you what those are. Our certification review also looked at those. So in a way, this has already been reviewed by the Federal Highway Administration, Federal Transit, like you just heard. But we do like to have this approved, then we put it into the tip when that's approved, and that goes in the package to USDOT. So if there's questions, we have to take them. Otherwise, we'd ask your approval.
Any questions?
Approval.
Second. Moved by Clyde, second by Ankeny. Any discussion on the self-certification? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, certification is approved. Now we move on to item 8, report and vote on fiscal year 2026 to 29 transportation improvement plan. You have Addison.
Yes, thank you, Mark. Good afternoon, everyone. Last time we'll be hearing about the TIP until at least the fall, so savor the moment while you can. The draft federal fiscal year 2026 to 2029 TIP was submitted to the Iowa DOT with technical committee's approval on June 13th. We quickly received comments back from the DOT ahead of this meeting in anticipation of the approval today. So the DOT provided comments on June 17th, mostly minor comments, a few recommended updates to the references, statutory language, a few project statuses that needed some modifications, and then a comment to adjust our CRP allocated funds to meet fiscal constraint requirements. Staff will continue addressing comments received by the public through the end of the public comment period. We have an open house on July 8th, 5 p.m. here at the MPO. I'm happy to take any comments from the public at that time. They will be addressed for July 15th when we submit the final tip to the DOT. On these next few slides here, I'll just run through tables that demonstrate our fiscal constraint for the SDBG, the TAP, and the CRP programs. Before I move on to that, happy to take any questions or comments right now. So happy to say that with all 3 funding programs, SDBG, TAP, and CRP, we do demonstrate fiscal constraint. We have a positive balance at the end of the 4 years obligated at the tip. Here's as well with the TAP program. And finally, with the carbon reduction program, demonstrating fiscal constraint throughout all 3. I'm happy to take any comments or questions now. Otherwise, for you here today, your approval, under the condition that we continue to monitor and address any comments received from the public by the team.
Any questions? Yeah, entertain a motion.
Approval.
Second. Moved by Clyde, second by Moines. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. TIP is approved. Up next, we have a report on multimodal economic impact study. Marcus.
Thank you. We're trying to keep you up abreast on the topic of the multimodal impact study as it is progressing along. And again, we have our final document posed in September. So here's the updated timeline. Shows the key tasks the consultant team is working on. We're nearing the completion of the initial document that we'll be receiving, which is the multimodal transportation contribution, which looks at all of the benefit and economic impact for transportation, multimodal transportation in the region. And there have been several workshops with a smaller group of stakeholders and individuals who work in economic development communities to get a little bit more detail. The next slide I'm going to show you will give an example of what will be expected as one of the outputs. I'm just going to forewarn you that the numbers on here are related to a study done in Utah and do not reference Des Moines, so please don't use them as our regional references. But what this shows you is a total benefit for transportation, for the transportation system. And then it shows things like employment, household income, value added to the region in terms of GDP, business output, sales, all based on what is the impact of transportation at different levels. So that business as usual case is something that we will have. It's basically saying if you continue to invest in the system and put in the minimum amount, what happens? And then our outcomes will have something more in line with if we complete the long range plan, what is the benefit that we will be receiving in that time period? There are other scenarios that can be run, just obviously in Utah, where they tested several scenarios, and you can see across the bottom here are some outputs that you get, where it's showing you the per dollar invested and what the output is. So that's just an example. Again, this has nothing to do with our region, just providing an example of what the output might be. Some initial outputs from the study that's being done for our region is this table, which shows some of the initial calculations for that transportation benefit piece. So a lot of these are common transportation benefits that we would calculate for things like grant applications. When you go for a build, you have to do a BCA. These are similar benefits that we'd see. So pretty common. What you'll highlight here is that market access item and the workforce participation, those are still being fine-tuned. So those numbers are being adjusted and will be finalized before we get the report that kind of summarizes all of this. If you want to continue to just kind of stay up to date on the study, we are posting new materials and documents as they are available and ready to go out to our project website. If you go to the MPO's website, you go to projects or work we do, I think it's the official title of the tab, and then go down to multimodal impact study. You can find a slide deck and a training video where our consultant team walks through this initial draft of the initial document and what's to be expected as you look at the tables. So you get more in-depth discussion about this is what each of those lines means for you when we look at the benefit for the region. So with that, that's all we have for the update today. If there are any questions on this, I'd be happy to take those. Otherwise, just a report.
Thank you. Next, move on to director's report. Dylan.
Thanks. I've got a couple items for you. The first one I want to start with is an insight into maybe where things are heading funding wise. Last month, the Trump administration released their budget proposal for FY26. This is just their proposal. It's not final. It's got to go through Congress if they even do anything besides a continuing resolution. But again, this might point to what we might see in future funding programs or the next reauthorization bill. And this adheres to what we heard when we were in DC and what we've heard from some industry groups is that they pretty much focused only on formula programs. So they fully authorized, what they proposed was to fully authorize all the formula funding programs that exist today, including carbon reduction, which is interesting because that was one that we were kind of concerned about that was new, didn't know how long it was actually going to stay around. So at least in the proposal, that's still there. However, pretty much all the other discretionary programs were not funded. That includes build, smart funds, healthy street programs, and so forth. The one exception to that is infra, which is nationally significant freight and highway programs. They added additional $700 million to that. And I also would note, Build is a very popular program. While there were no funds put in there for FY26, there is $1.5 billion that was put in through advanced appropriation. So just the way that happened when the reauthorization bill happened, they basically just pre-approved that to go into appropriation. So there will be funding there, hopefully for another round. But again, after that is expended, I'm not sure what would happen. Also note, no surprises, funding related to NEVI, which is the electric vehicle and CFI charging and fueling infrastructure. Anything that wasn't already obligated was rescinded, and elimination of any equity-focused offices was also part of the budget. So again, maybe this points to where we can see things going. We'll stay abreast of this as time goes on. We should see a regular authorization bill sometime next year, hopefully, and we'll know more at that time. But just to give you a heads up there.
The only one question, so advanced appropriation, is that basically for one more year?
Yeah, the current authorization
Yes.
bill, and maybe Sean can correct me if I'm wrong, goes through FY27. And so what they did was kind of pre-approved, because it usually goes through authorization and appropriation, but they did a mechanism, the last administration did some sort of mechanism to pre-appropriate some funds at the same time. So those are already budgeted. There's not much they can do about it now.
But don't count on anything after that.
That's to be determined. Yeah.
Well, okay,
As at least this indicates, probably not, but again, it's up to Congress.
okay.
A lot can happen. If we go to the next slide, just a couple updates on some key projects. Safe Streets and Roads for All. We've been working on the implementation of that. Earlier today, Marcus hit the go button and submitted that to USDOT. So thanks to Marcus and our team for getting that done. And the consultant team, they did a great job with that. Also, thank you to all of you for submitting resolutions and letters of support over the last several weeks. I know you've had that on your, a lot of you have had on your council board packets. So thanks for doing that. Another update on the Future 435 project. As you know, that bill was passed. It calls for a study. We are meeting with Iowa DOT leadership next week to talk about the next steps in that study. And it sounds like the DOT is willing to step up and be the lead sponsor of that and handle all the procurement and everything, which is great. We will be a part of that, though, both financially as well as just from a planning perspective in that partnership. So more to come on what that actually looks like, when we'll see RFPs happen, and so forth. And then we've talked a little bit about this in the past, the active transportation plan. This is something we're currently working on. We've had a lot of public engagement. Just as more of a heads up, you'll probably see us out in the community in the coming months still. If you have events that you think we should be at or that you're aware of, please let us know. Allison's leading that up. I know we've got a calendar, putting together a calendar of where we'll be at farmers markets and Zoo Brew and other things like that. So just don't be surprised if you see our staff out there taking comments, filling out surveys and so forth. If you go to the next slide, the final slide I have, again, left side is kind of some bigger projects that we have coming up. Talked about the active transportation plan. Now that we have the TIP and the Safe Streets for All, you'll see the other two, the free and the public participation plan, have a little more activity. As we look forward to August, we'll probably have another update on the multimodal impact study that Marcus spoke about. We'll have a transportation capital improvement program summary for you. That's our project, our intern Janet's working on. This really just compiles all of the capital improvement programs from all the communities, and then we can look at some trends and see where funds are being spent and what impact it might be having on our system. We should also have a trail data report ready from our data bike collection, as well as something really exciting administratively, just updating some policies and procedures or handbook and that kind of thing. So that's what we have for you as far as this report, what you might see next month. As the chair mentioned, real quick, the policy board doesn't meet in July. The only thing we really have identified for the executive committee is just a couple of change orders. So it's probably going to be a short exec meeting that will happen in July just to get those out the door unless something other drastic happens. But yeah, it'll probably be a quick Zoom meeting. So just a heads up for you on the executive committee there.
Bill? Any other non-action items or interests of the committee? Hearing of the grievances.
Just real quick, you probably saw it on your table before you, but there is an annual report. This was mailed to all of your communities, but if you want extra copies, please let us know. It's also on our website, but it's a nice, as we get to the end of the fiscal year, to look back at what we did. And it seemed like it was a pretty good year.
Have anything? Hearing nothing from the committee, our next meeting is, Dylan mentioned, it's August 21st at 4 p.m. We have no other business for us today. Thank you for your time. The meeting is adjourned. Yeah.